We're back looking for our Dark Ages sub-Roman piece of civilization that might have survived for some time after the collapse of the Roman Empire and the migration of the English to Britain. We're at the village of Ham, just down the road from Inkpen and Coombe Gibbet. And we have a Saxon charter, a part of which might be relevant to this discussion. So I'll go through a corner of it that might interest you. We start with Pudis Yeta, which means the gate of Pud, and I'm placing it here on the road. The field next to it is called Pidget Field, but it could be quite a large field. It could be where most archaeologists think it is, which is beneath the next point. The next point along the boundary is Dhara Stan Kiestla, which is plural. It doesn't mean villa. It doesn't mean castle. It means stone walls, or a stone-walled enclosure. Stone walls enclosures. These were discovered by archaeologists in the 20th century in that wood, inward copse, I think it's called. Further south of here is Oswaldes Berge, which means the barrow of Oswald. And then the charter asks us to go on long Her Porthes, which is our old friend Herapartha, which means army path, but later becomes highway, or, well, in this case it is up high on the ridgeway. Then go along to Berg Hades and Stio, and Stio still has some use to modern English in the two words sticklepath and stile, and stile is those contraptions we climb over going from field to field, and sticklepath is an uphill path. Then beyond that to Bares and Stio, and Grundy translates Bares as the Anstio of a man called Bar. Bar means in Old English boar. I can't see why it can't be the boar's sticklepath. So we have giant earthworks, giant linear earthworks that are aligned in some ways to Roman, sub-Roman landmarks such as the Wansdyke and villas and so on. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have the makings of a boundary for a post-Roman kingdom. Well, there could just as easily be other interpretations. Here we have that talks about Dhara Stan Kiastla, which means the stone walls, and it may well be in this copse here. To the north of it, on the Saxon parish boundary, which is another correlation, at the corner where that Saxon parish boundary turns left, there is the beginnings of what is called the older ditch. Obviously the people around here considered that ditch, that dike, to be old, otherwise they wouldn't have called it that. Then again, it could be just antiquarians making stuff up in the 17th, 18th century, but it may not be. It can be aligned, this ditch can be aligned with other ditches that lead up to the Wansdyke, which was dug in the 1920s, and they found a couple of pieces of Roman pottery and could therefore say that the Wansdyke was a post-Roman fortification. But it doesn't necessarily mean that these alignments are an extension of the Wansdyke, no matter how much we really, really want them to be, for romantic and political reasons. We're in part of the parish of Inkpen. We're on the border with it, and we shall soon be going into the parish of Ham. And all you Wansdyke watchers out there might recognise that as being significant. Does the Wansdyke come as far as this? The antiquarians certainly thought so. I'm not so sure. As much as I believe that there was a rump of Romano-British culture, civilisation, that survived the withdrawal of the Roman armies in 410, the Wansdyke was probably built sometime after that, or built up on top of an older ditch. I'm not sure that it comes as far as this. The scientific evidence the consensus tends to suggest it ends at Savernake Forest, just south of Marlborough, at New Buildings, I believe. Anyway, there are dikes that come this far. There's little patches of them. There's a lane called Older Ditch Lane, which has a ditch on it, and in a field nearby there's a further ditch. And if you like joining the dots, you can join it up with a dike at Bedwin, and then go further to Chisbury, which is an Iron Age hill fort, and we know there are Iron Age hill forts on there, guarding as sort of stations along the Wansdyke. And then there is a ditch within Savernake Forest which the antiquarians thought was Wansdyke. Obviously they thought it joined up with this road and Walbury, which is just down the road here. There's no mention of Wansdyke, as far as I know, in the Saxon charters in this area. There is over in Marlborough. The Saxon charters talk about Wordnes Ditch. Clearly that's Wansdyke. So there's confirmation from the Saxon charters in that area. There isn't here. But we have these alignments and we have these villas. I think because there are so many Iron Age ditches here, large embankments all over the place, I think it's easy to create a line, because you've got these parts of what are essentially boundaries, and I think they're probably not just Iron Age but Roman estates having these big ditches. You have these sort of oval or square or circular shapes that's showing up estates, and you have another one down there, and then you see these patches of ditch going like that, and you make a line of it, thinking that it's a territorial embankment that marks the edge of a kingdom rather than these parts of estates. That's what I think is going on. But that there is a theory about what went on down in Bokerley Dyke, which is really similar, down in Dorset, where in Dorset we have place names that show that British culture, Romano-British culture, that is Proto-Welsh culture, survived well into the Anglo-Saxon period, and the Bokerley Dyke might have had something to do with it. And that looks like it might have been made up of parts of estate boundaries that were built up in a long line forming the edge of their kingdom. We know that tyrants took over, petty kingdoms, petty kings took over after the Romans left. The Roman army left. And we also know that these people kept Roman traditions alive. Gildas talks of born to the purple. We have stones that show both British names and Roman Latin titles. So Romano-British, probably more Christian than our sort of toga-wearing idea of Romans, but nonetheless it still existed, probably. But whether or not that proves that what we're seeing here is the Wansdyke is another matter.